We're currently seeing a brutal genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people, particularly in Gaza. Gaza is home to over 2 million people, with half the population being under the age of 18. So when we're talking about this as a conflict, we're talking about a brutal operation towards children, towards mothers and fathers, and towards people who have been just trying to fight for their lives and struggle to stay alive. This is a situation that's been happening over the last 75 years. This is ongoing settler colonial occupation, something that we've seen here in the United States and something that we have seen with Western governments all throughout the world. I'm a Bengali American, and I'm specifically a Bangladeshi American. My people were also subjugated to brutal colonization and ethnic genocide in the 1970s of 3 million people that was in part funded by the US government with a tagline of $300 million. My community, the Desi community at large, was partitioned by the British government and did not see independence until 1945, similar to how the Palestinians were partitioned by the British when they occupied Palestine. This is not the first time Palestine has seen occupation, not just from an Israeli government, but prior to that, a British government who decided to neglect the Palestinians and kick this situation over to the United Nations. To talk a little bit about how Palestine was partitioned, we have to go all the way back to World War II, where at the time it was under Ottoman influence. And when Palestine was occupied by the British government at the time, the British had decided to make a deal with the Arabs in that area, saying that if you join us in fighting against the Ottomans, we will give you this land and you can have it to yourselves. The Arabs agreed. At the same time, the British government also made a deal with a group of Zionists who also wanted to have a Jewish state for themselves. At the end of the war, the British government went to both of these parties and said, hey, we want to give both of you this land. Can you share this land? The Arabs said no. The Zionists said yes. And without the consent of the local Palestinian community, the British government went ahead and partitioned and flooded this community with folks throughout Europe. This is specifically talking about the Jewish diaspora that exists in Europe. And Zionism in itself was an idea championed by a man named Theodor Herzl in 1897. And that idea spoke to the point of a Jewish state being necessary and talking about going to this ancestral land. Now, you're all familiar with the conversations and the topics and the stories that you've heard in the Bible, but the Bible is not the only source that talks about the people who have lived in that area for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's really important for us to recognize the whole story of the occupation and understanding that, sure, there may have been a partition for there to be a Gaza and a West Bank, but what we're seeing is ongoing settler colonialism, where bit by bit, house by house, home by home, we're seeing these pieces of land be taken away. In 2021, you may have noticed or saw on social media a lot of activity around a place called Sheikh Jarrah, which the Palestinians were losing the homes that they had stayed in for years and years to the Israeli government. They were trying to bulldoze those homes. This is not a unique case. This is not an isolated incident. We've seen this happening since the last 75 years.